G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of the Cool Dad Collective podcast, the podcast that is for dads by dad, talking everything there is to talk about fatherhood. And I tell you, we're back in the newly soundproofed studio. It's great. The backdrop looks a little bit better. I feel like I'm not disappearing in the back of that black thing that I had up, the black sheet. I felt like I was kind of disappearing at times, which was a little bit annoying, but that is okay. We carry on. But back for another solo episode, bit of a debrief of like the last few weeks. I feel like we had a break from the podcast last week, which I think was good. I probably needed that just in regards to the fact that I had to get the studio sorted. We had to get some work done, and then we had to move everything back in. And I was going to record last week, but then, there was a lot of work to do. And then, I had to go pick up the kids. I can't just leave the kids at kindy till all hours of the day. Had to go get them sorted and get them done. And so I had to prioritize the kids, but that was okay because I had a whole bunch of work to get catched up on. And we're back now. We finally did it. We finally got it sorted. And I've got 2 weeks left of work and then I'm on my holidays, which means, well, they're not really holidays now because this takes up a lot of my time too, but it just means I can be full-time cool dad, which is going to be fantastic. Skylar finishes up her kindy journey, which means, the last 2 weeks of the school holiday, she obviously doesn't go to kindy anymore because she's going to school, which is pretty cool. She's very excited about that. I think the realization has started to sort of kick in with the kindy graduations going on and things like that. So it is pretty cool. Pretty scary, I think, for me as a dad too, because obviously sending her to big school, it's just a big old change. Not just a change for her, but a change for Kira and I as well. Obviously, we have to sort of change up our routines and stuff like that because school's obviously a little bit different with drop-off. We got 2 kids in 2 different locations. So there's a lot of work around logistics at the moment. And I think as parents, it's one of those things where, you kind of get comfortable in a routine. And the thing about kids is, and the thing that's quite obvious, and I think if you've got kids or have kids and they're getting into that school age thing, that transition to school, excuse me, my goodness, too much water. That transition into school is probably one of those giant turning points that you get to where you realize that a big change is coming, and it's not just a change that's going to affect your kids, it's also going to affect you because you now have to work around this new schedule. And if you've got 2 kids, one in kindy, one in school, you're now at the point where one's going one location and one's going the other location, and then all of a sudden, you've just got to realign the logistics. So I reckon there will be a little bit of stress around that. And I feel like when it comes to those transitions in life, I think it's similar to just having kids in general. You sort of just have to be open to the fact that things are going to be a little bit bumpy to start off with. You can't really expect perfection to start. And I think if you have that attitude, it's a great attitude to be in. So, I'm very welcome to the new challenge. Obviously we'll be very busy dealing with that new schedule, but all in all, very excited. I think Skylar is so ready for school. She loves learning, which is something that I'm very happy that she's really into. I think that definitely comes from her mum. Kia loves to learn. She still to this day is just always reading things and learning things. I'm trying my best to get back into that. That was never something that, learning for me was always, I don't know, unless I was really interested in it, it was hard. So I look back on it now, I'm really into history, as most 30-year-old dudes are. You just get to a point where you get to like 30 years old, and it wasn't even 30 actually, it was around like 28. You start looking at like YouTubers and stuff, and you start to go like, holy shit, like history is fucking sick. I think that's such a downside because obviously in school you do like modern history, ancient history, you learn a lot about humanities and things like that. But when you're in school, you don't really give a shit because, you're like a 15-year-old kid and all you care about is like sport and playing with your mates. But then you get to like 28 or whatever and it just comes over you like a wave. You're just like, bro, history is fucking sick. History is dope. Let me just listen to Creed and then go into a history podcast. And, when you think about it, like that's kind of like the best night. You put the kids to bed, you do a bit of work, you tidy the house up, you make sure you're all ready to go, and then you snuggle up into bed, you sort of scroll through your YouTube or whatever your podcast, and you find something like a history one, like, the history of Genghis Khan or how Rome was built or all these things, and you just get immersed in it. It is such a oddly I think the other thing too that's crazy is you talk to other people and they're all the same. Everyone loves those history stuff. So if you're not into history right now, it might come. I don't know. It could come, but history podcasts are fucking dope. I love that shit. But yeah. So anyway, back into it, and wanted to start the podcast today with a little bit of a rant. I'm gonna have a bit of a rant. I don't like ranting all that much, but I feel like this one's warranted. I don't think this is going to be a rant that is about anyone that listens to the podcast, purely because if you're listening to the podcast, you're kind of like, an involved dad. But, sometimes it might creep up, and it could be like a good reminder for people just to like, slow down a bit and have a little bit of a chill. So I'll set the scene for you. It was a day. I wanted to pick the girls up early from kindy. I had an early finish at work, which was fantastic. Motored my way to kindy because literally, I know it sounds so silly, but the moment I drop those girls off, the second I get back in the car, it's almost like a breath of like, oh, that's great. I did the morning. And then within like 5 minutes, I'm just thinking to myself, like, fuck, I can't wait to pick those kids up. I cannot wait to pick them up today and just, find something to do. So I picked the girls up early one day, and then we had a bit of time. The sun's not going down until about 6:30, so the afternoon now is a bit more extended. We've got some more time to do some cool stuff. So I thought, fuck yeah, I'll be a great dad. We're gonna go to the park, and we're just gonna muck around in the park, right? It's gonna be great. And some of you probably have experienced something similar to me. So, if this feels like it's happened to you, that you're not alone, and it does fucking piss me off so much. And I'm not for parent bashing, I know, but in these circumstances, I'm like, dude, just try a little bit better. So I get the girls to the park. They're having fun. I'm really into it. Like, I leave my phone in the car. If I'm at the park, phone's going away. I don't care. Like, if you need to reach me, sorry, you probably won't reach me. And I know it irks my missus so much, but she also understands when I'm with the kids, they are my number one. All my attention is going on them. I haven't seen them all day. I know it sucks. They got to go to kindy. I wish I could stay home with them, but unfortunately, cost of living, your boy's got to work. I got to go to my job. So anyway, we're playing cafe, and the girls are having fun. We're doing things. We're making like little fake coffees, and Summer's behind there telling me, "Oh, you want Sophie? You want Sophie?" She can't say C's yet, so it's really hilarious. And then anyway, like this kid comes over, right? And like I got nothing against the kid, okay? But the kid is probably between the ages of like 4. I'd say like probably like 3.5, 4. The way I'd describe it is he's probably old enough to be fucking annoying. Like that's probably the age that we're at this point. And anyway, this kid is, if it's consensual, in other words, if another parent is there and the kid comes over and wants to join in, the other parent is like, oh, I'll come in and play too. I'm just like, hell yeah, dude. Like, you can join. If you want to be involved in this, fuck yeah, that's great. This kid comes over by himself, and he wants to be involved, so I'm trying my best to sort of like keep him on the edge. But every 2 seconds he's like asking me a question, or like, watch this, hey, did you know that? And he's just trying to tell me stories, and I'm just sitting there like, brother, I don't care about you. Like, you're not my kid. I don't care. Stop talking to me. I don't care about it or whatever. And anyway, it got to probably about 15, 20 minutes. This kid just is in there, and he gets to a point where he's sort of like, I guess, taking over like my daughter's spots in like the cafe or whatever. Cafe, like fake cafe. And I'm just like sitting there like, where the hell is this kid's parents? Like, bro, I am here to hang out with my kids, okay? I'm here to reap the benefits of hanging out with my kids, okay? I want to just be with them. No one else. No other, just them, okay? And this kid is around. And anyway, I just look around. I'm just like, where the fuck is this kid's parents? Like, what the hell? And I look over at the corner of the park, and there's a dad there. And he's like an older dad, okay? Not an excuse. If you have kids older, bro, whatever your situation is, invest the energy, okay? And he's just sitting there, and I see him just scrolling on his phone. Dead ass, just scrolling on his phone. You know when you can tell someone might be doing something to do with their job? Maybe they've picked their kids up early, but they still have to do some work, so they're sort of sitting around and whatever. But if that's the case, at least try to be involved while you're there and be like, hang on, mate, I'll bet there in a minute. I just want to reply to this email, whatever. Probably not the ideal situation. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, now I have to deal with your kid, and I'm here trying to have fun with my kid or my kids, and your kid is now involved and is really fucking annoying. So I look up and I'm just like, hey, mate, like, where's your parents? And he like points over at his dad, and his dad's fucking nose deep in his phone. And I'm just watching this kid, and this kid is just craving the attention, because when he's not with me, when I've sort of pied him off, he's going to another dad. And that dad's in the same situation as me. He's jumping on a swing. He's like, oh, can you push me? And I'm just like, that's not my responsibility. So can we collectively, as parents, and like I said, this probably doesn't apply to anybody that listens to this podcast because you probably care, but if you bring your kid to the park, if you're bringing your 4, 5, 6-year-old to the park, right, and you're just saying, yeah, go play, I'm just going to be here on my phone, and that kid is going on and I'm having to like take care of this kid, can you do me a huge favor and just like maybe just be a parent for like 2 seconds. Just give your kid, who clearly is craving the attention from you because you don't give a shit, and now they're coming to me, and I don't care about your kid. I'm sorry, it is what it is. I just don't care about your kid. If your kid's there, I'm not a fucking babysitter. I'm not a babysitter. I'm there to help and have fun with my kids and spend the time with my kids. I don't need your kid coming over to me while you're sitting there doing fuck all, and I have to take care of your kid. Okay, because I'm going to tell your kid to go away. Straight up, unless you're there and you want to strike up a conversation with me and then, be involved in the situation too, where it's like a consensual, our kids are playing together, so we'll both get involved, which has happened, and it's great when that happens because you usually get talking to the dad. But if you're just lazy on your phone, and your kid is going around to different parents trying to get the attention when we're trying to give the attention to our own kids, dude, what are you doing? Literally, oh man, it just irks me so much. Like, parks are not free babysitters. The parents at parks are not there to supervise your kid. And not only that, the safety. If I'm sitting there doing fuck all and my kid is going up to random adults being like, hey, and dude, alarm bells, okay? That is crazy. At least the minimum you can do is put your phone down. If you want to sit down and chill, that's fine. But the least you could do is just watch your damn kid. Okay, because somebody is going to tell this kid to go away. And that's my parent rant. I don't usually have rants, but god damn, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm just like, that's the bare minimum. If you go to a park with your kid and you're sitting there scrolling on your phone, I hope, because I'm probably going to chop this up, and I hope as you're scrolling through, this video pops up and you look up and you see me and you go, oh, that's the guy. That's the guy that's telling this story about my kid being annoying because I don't give a shit and I don't want to be involved in this situation. You may as well put your kid in front of an iPad. Okay, just be involved. It's pretty easy. Be involved. If you have taken the time to take your kid to a park, invest that time to hang out with them because they just want you to hang out. And like I said, this isn't the kid's fault, man. This kid is just obviously sitting there trying to get the attention of another adult because he's not getting it himself. So if you are listening to this and it's come up a couple times and you've seen yourself be like, fuck, I'm on my phone. Get off your phone. Just get it off. Nothing is more important in that moment when you take your kid to the park. Nothing is more important than spending the time with your kid, especially like me, who hasn't seen their kids all day, and all I want to do is spend time with my kids, not yours. Sorry, not your kids. That's just the way it is. I just don't, no. Not while you're not there. Anyway, I feel like you always got to have a bit of a parent rant. Get it out there. Maybe someone will see that and be like, yeah, he's right. Well, I highly doubt that's anyone that's listens to this. But if this is you and you catch yourself, take it from me. Be invested in your kids, right? So that's my parent rant done. I don't want to talk about it anymore because, once again, not into parent bashing. Your situation, I never judge a parent based on one thing. But I feel like this kid maybe experiences this a fair amount of time. Yeah. So, the other thing that's going on this week or next week is, and it's been talked about a lot in Australian media and I guess Australian social media as well. I believe there is a social media ban coming in place on the 10th of December, which will be very shortly after this podcast is dropped, probably like a week away, to be honest. And I don't know. I'm very conflicted, okay? One of the reasons I'm conflicted is because as a teacher, okay, so taking my parent hat off, putting my teacher hat on, okay, as a teacher and as a previous teenager, Kids are very, very smart when you tell them they can't do something. Okay, so for example, the government's saying no social media under the age of 16. In my opinion, blanket statement here, great. I think it's great. I think it really is good, okay, because I don't think social media is designed for kids, and kids are getting it younger and younger and younger and younger. And I'm not talking Facebook, Instagram. I'm talking things like Roblox. I'm talking things like Minecraft, things where they can communicate with people. Social communication, media, things you watch or do, okay? Now, here's my other side of the argument, okay, because I like to come at it from both ends. First thing, great, awesome, like hopefully it lowers bullying, whatever. On the flip side, I don't know if kids are going to take this lightly. I don't think kids are going to go, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like social media is bad. I'm just not going to use it because it's banned. Kids find a way to find loopholes. They will always find loopholes. When you tell a kid, don't do that, they will look at that situation as being like, okay, I can't do that. How can I do it without getting caught? And that's where the issues lie. So the kids are going to try and find a way. Now, this is the point around it. Okay, I don't have an opinion in terms of whether it's good or bad, but one thing I do have an opinion on is parents. Okay, as a parent, once again, I have a 4.5-year-old. Okay, I'm probably not at that point yet, but I know it's coming. Okay, I know it's going to be here, and it's probably going to happen quicker than usual because things are just going crazy at a rapid rate. Okay, as a parent, it is your responsibility, not us, not teachers, not the government. No, it is your responsibility to make sure that you understand what your kids are doing online. This is exactly the same as the adult time for adult crime. Okay, if a kid is getting into trouble where they're at a point where they're getting arrested, like I'm not talking about your kid is wagging school and getting like suspended at school. I'm talking about your kid is breaking the law. How are parents not going to be held responsible as well? It doesn't make any sense to me. So you're just going to punish the kid. Let's be honest, they're kids. They have no idea what they're doing. They may think they do, and they're probably doing it, but the problem lies with parent accountability. If you are a parent and you have a child, you made the decision to have a child, or maybe you didn't, it is still your responsibility. It is still your responsibility to make sure that that kid, because they didn't choose to come into this world, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are fully aware of what could potentially happen online. And I understand. I get it. It is hard. The world is progressing so quickly, unbelievably quick. You know, I look at like my parents. The worst thing they had to deal with really quickly is MSN, which is the messaging service, which was there for a long time. And I know some parents probably didn't even understand that. And then it went into like Facebook and Facebook Messenger. And then it went into Snapchat. It was a very slow progression. That slow progression is now gone. Okay, it is now rapid fire. And these kids know it's rapid fire, and they will jump on the first thing that comes to them. The first thing that comes to them, they will find a way. And kids are exceptionally good at becoming experts quickly. That's why they always say, get your kids into sport early. That's why they say you need to read to your kids early. They're moldable, they're malleable, their brains have not developed. So they are in a state where they can learn things really quick. And that's just not like musical instruments, sports, the ability to run, write, read. We're talking about using technology. They can do it quickly because they have no fear around stuffing up or learning something. They don't care. They just stuff it up and they'll learn. Stuff it up and they'll learn. It is the one thing we definitely do not give our kids credit for, and that is the ability to learn technology exceptionally fast. Okay, so on a parent side of things, okay, and it is literally something that I am so passionate about because I personally don't think this ban is going to work. And if you are a parent of teenagers, if you are a parent of a 10-year-old who soon will be a teenager, you need to make sure that you are up to date with everything. You need to make sure that you know exactly what your kids are doing. You need to be aware, especially with things like Roblox. Kids are getting on Roblox at about like 6, 7 years old. Roblox is not a kid's game. Adults play Roblox. It is literally, there are documentaries on the fact that Roblox are a breeding ground for child grooming. It is something, in my opinion, I don't think, no matter how much social pressure is put on my kids, I don't want to give them that. No. I would rather I would rather sacrifice as much time of my own time to make sure that they're not on that, because it is so dangerous. And we probably need to get out of this space of being naive to these things. You know, naivety is just a target. If people can see that you're like, people are naive to a certain thing, they're going to abuse that. And that is the problem. We don't live in a space now where everything is on the streets and you can see it. Most of this stuff you cannot see. So I know they're going to ban it. Okay. And it might last God knows how long. These social media companies, I think the fine is like 25 mil or something. These social media companies make billions. Okay. If they get something like that, a kid gets found out that he's on social media, he's 15, 14, whatever. Okay. These companies aren't going to care. Okay. And I'll probably chop this up and the video will get like, closed down by Instagram, whatever. And that is fine. Okay. I get it. But also, as a parent, just be aware. Nobody has your best interest or your kid's best interest at heart. At the end of the day, for these major companies, you and your kids are a dollar sign. You're straight up a dollar sign. So be aware of that. Be aware of the fact that these things aren't designed to help your kids. And there are probably some apps that are designed. We had bloody Mathletics back in the day. I don't know about that, but there was still a chat function on that. But these things are designed to make money. Be aware of that. Make sure you start that conversation early with your kids. If they see something online and make them be honest. Well, don't make them be honest, but get them into a space where they feel like they can be honest. And when they are honest, don't grill them for it. Okay, if you've got a kid that's willing to tell you something that they're uncomfortable about, don't grill them for it. Have a stern chat, but don't grill them for it. The moment you grill them for being honest with you and for being someone who is, open with their parents, that is the moment that they stop. That's the moment that they start being sneaky. And a sneaky kid is not something, you want your kids to be street smart, but not sneaky. Because as soon as they're sneaky, you're going to find out a lot of things and it's going to occur to you that you're like, oh, I don't really know my kid that well. So you need to invest the time. Invest the time in not just your kid, but invest the time in understanding a lot about what your kids potentially might do in terms of what apps they're going to get on, what social media they're going to get. What do the social media things do? And have a conversation. Be open and honest with your kid. They might be like 13 years old, and that is tough to do because trying to talk to a 13-year-old about the dangers of cyber safety is almost impossible, but at least you can plant the seed so when they do mature, they're going to understand. They're going to think back and go, hey, maybe dad was right about that. Or they're going to see something and be like, this is what my dad or my mum was talking about. Like, this is the thing. And that might be the thing that stops them from getting involved in those things on social media. So I just really think it's important, okay? Because social media is not going anywhere. I'm on it. I understand it. I'm there on it all the time. I understand algorithms. I understand how algorithms do make me feel. My Cool Dad algorithm does get a little bit annoying sometimes. I've got a personal algorithm on my personal page that is all just sports highlights. I open my phone, I see sports highlights. I see LeBron James edits. Okay, and I'm cool with that because that doesn't invoke any emotions in me. I saw a Halo edit the other day to Breaking Benjamin. I don't know if you know Breaking Benjamin, but it is. This edit was just like the ultimate man edit. It's just Halo footage and then just Breaking Benjamin behind it. And if you don't know, I literally will probably post it on my Instagram. It is such a good edit. But anyway, that's my algorithm. And I know if I spend too much time on the Cool Dad algorithm, there's a lot of self-development, but there's a lot of controversial takes that people really want clicks on. It doesn't make me feel good. Does not make me feel good. And if I spend so much time on that, it makes me feel like shit. That's partly the reason why I could jump on this podcast and yeah, fair enough. I probably had a bit of a whinge. So I could jump on this podcast and say, very controversial things and they're going to get clicks, but that is not going to make my following or the people who follow this podcast feel good. I want you guys to be able to come to this space, ironic because I have had a whinge, to come to this space and feel as though it's going to be either informational, you're going to learn something, maybe whether it be learn something actually, half decent or just learn from my mistakes or my experiences, but also just have a good time. It's stress-free. We're not doing controversial takes. I'm not trying to say something that's going to piss you off. And if it does piss you off, then, I'm sorry about that, but that's just me being genuine. I'm not going to say things that I don't think, oh, I don't think that's important. I don't know how people are going to take that. I'm trying to say things that are going to help you. or help, maybe it's going to put something in your brain that when you go to do something, you go, this might be not a good idea. Maybe I do need to make sure before I set this iPad up that I've locked all the random stuff. Or maybe, I am using the iPad a lot and I listen on CoolDad and we never use iPads, and maybe we could go to communal TV time or something like that. You put something in, I'm getting so sweaty. Maybe you start hearing something like that. I don't know what I'm getting at, but I just want this to be a place that you guys can come to and feel like, you're going to learn, or you're just going to be chill. You're not going to get angry or anything like that. So, and that leads me to a message I received during the week. And it was a positive. I want to end on a positive because I feel like this one has been a lot of ranting, but at the same time too, you've probably listened to the rant. You might feel the same way, and maybe now you're thinking, oh yeah, good, okay, I don't feel alone in this situation, whatever. But I got a message saying, and it was like a shit dad message. It was a follower of the podcast, and he sent me a message explaining like a shit dad moment. And one of the shit dad moments that he explained was he got a little bit angry, and there was sort of like a box of, like a bucket or something that was sitting on the floor, and he had a bit of a rage, and he kicked the bucket. Okay, and this is I don't want to say this is a positive story, but one thing I do appreciate in this message is he acknowledged that he stuffed up. Like, one of the things that I feel like we don't do as guys, and I'm saying we don't do as guys because predominantly a lot of the people that listen to this pod are men or dads. That's the whole premise of it. But there might be some mums out there. But we're going to fuck up as dads, okay? We're probably going to get angry. You might have a short fuse, something like that, okay? And that is, it's not okay, but it might happen. Now, if it does happen, and in this story, I was very, very happy with the outcome of this story. And he turned it into sort of like a dad win. He went back to his kid and he said, I'm sorry I was angry. So first thing he did was acknowledge that, he stuffed up. Being completely vulnerable and transparent with your kids. Hey, I stuffed up. That's not appropriate behavior. Okay, I might have been angry, but that is not the way that we express anger. That's not a healthy way to express anger. And he got down on their level and explained why he was angry. And I feel like the new age dads now, dude, I am sweaty as. The new age dads now, I think we're doing a better job at acknowledging that we do stuff up. Okay, it's not just you do as I say because I said it, or I'm allowed to do this because I'm an adult, which used to be the attitude of most people. You can explain to your kids that you stuffed up. You made a mistake. You got angry. Show your kids that that's not appropriate. Have that conversation like, hey, that was my problem. And he explained, and they had a big hug at the end. And, he turned that situation, which could be something that like burns into a kid's brain. But he flipped that situation, right? And said, this could be a situation, although negative, that I can show my kid that this isn't a good way to express emotions. This is not the way that I want my son, because it was his little boy, to express his emotions. And for your son to see you apologize and acknowledge that you stuffed up is huge. That is a massive win. If you're going to stuff up, the best thing you can do is turn that mistake, turn that stuff up into a win, and he did. And I'm so proud of that, and that is what CoolDadCollective is about. It's about if we stuff up as men, we acknowledge that we stuffed up to our kids. Because especially if you've got a boy and you're showing him that you need to be accountable and acknowledge your mistakes, that kid is going to be an accountable young man. Likewise with a daughter. If they see you rage, right? And you come back and you get on your level, you say, that's not an acceptable behavior. You should never have to experience that from anybody. Your daughter, you're now laying the foundations for what type of man your daughter is going to be interested in, or what type of man your daughter, or what type of behavior your daughter is going to see as acceptable behavior. It may get to a point where that happens in a relationship that they were in when they're in their teens or their early 20s. And they say, hey, if you're not going to acknowledge that behavior, and say that that's not good behavior, that's not a good way of handling your emotions, that means that they've seen you as a man take responsibility. And they know now that that is what a guy should do. That's what a man should do when he stuffs up. Take accountability, take responsibility, and apologize for it and be vulnerable. That is a huge thing. So that listener, I really appreciate your message, and he definitely did say some kind words about listening to the podcast, and I guess becoming. Well, for him to say that, he wouldn't have done that without listening to the podcast, that meant a lot. That meant so much to me, because that is something that I'm working on, and I'm trying really, really hard to make sure I do. And to hear that somebody else is trying to do that too makes me so happy. Okay, so guys, if you have a story like that, I want to hear it, because it makes me feel like I'm doing something good for you guys, because this podcast is not about me. It's about my journey, but it's about you guys. It's about bringing together dads to make sure that the next generation of kids have involved dads, have dads who set the standard for fatherhood, who set the standard for what they want their kids to see them as. And there are so many facets of that, and we're not going to be perfect. I'm absolutely not perfect. I stuff up all the time. All the time I stuff up. But I will always acknowledge when I stuff up. And that's not just with my kids. That's with my partner, my fiance as well. Taking accountability for when you stuff up is the most important thing you can do, because it acknowledges that you did the wrong thing, and it acknowledges that you're going to be better. So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much the episode today. Like I said, I love these solo ones because I get a lot off my chest, and I do write a lot of notes down to sort of piece the episodes together, but it is off the cuff. It is how I feel, and that's what I love about it. This is all just straight up off the dome, and I feel like I get on a bit of a tangent, and I get really introspective on myself too, and, critical of the way that I father and be a dad as well. But one dad win for me this week is we went to Spotlight and we bought a jewelry making kit. My daughter Skylar loves making jewelry, and we're really big on, if she's really interested in something, we love sort of harnessing that interest and do it. So I do have a fantastically very cute bracelet that my daughter has made for me. I love it. There's a banana on there for Summer, an apple on there for Skylar because that's her favorite fruit, and I got a peach on there for Kia for obvious reasons. Not obvious reasons, but she's dude, I'm so obsessed with her. She's the greatest human being alive. I love her so much. So, guys, you know what it is. Cool Dad Collective podcast. Come back next week if you want. If you're listening to the podcast and you love it, leave a rating and review. That means so much. And, I've been putting some more stuff on YouTube. So if you do get around the YouTube content, obviously the studio's back. We've got some really good content coming your way, especially in the holidays. I've got a lot of guests lined up, which I'm very excited for. And obviously a fantastic space to be recording in. I cannot wait. So the video stuff is definitely going up as we go. And guys, you know what it is. It's Cool Dad Collective podcast. Go spend some time with your kids. When you go to the park, leave your phone in the car. Okay, just cop the yell if your missus can't get in touch with you, because at the end of the day, you're focusing on your kids. Spend the time with them. Don't be the dad at the park on his phone scrolling Instagram. No one cares. This could all go away tomorrow, but your kids don't. This is the only thing that matters, guys. Have a fantastic week. Go listen to some Creed or something like that. Get in the dad zone and just have a ripper week, guys. Peace.